Hey, my name is Amanda Creasel Olson, and I am your Math 2410 Calculus 1 instructor. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself and talk a little bit about this course. I am going to cover in this video how the course is set up, how to take the practice test, and also how to take exams, what's required in terms of written work, and how to then submit written work correctly. So let's get started. Okay, what you should see on the screen is our course Canvas page, and I'm viewing it as a student so that you can see it. One of the requirements for this course is that you get access to Webassign. So you do have an electronic version of the textbook, and with that, you can view what you would normally have for a paper textbook. So you're not required to get a paper textbook. You are required to get the Webassign software. So that's one of the first things, is making sure that you get that. Some ways that you can purchase it is you can purchase it directly through Cengage via credit card. If that's not an option, you can also buy an access code via the bookstore for Cengage/Webassign. You may also opt to have the optional paper copy of the text. It is currently a 3-ring binder form. If you don't like 3-ring binders, but you do like hard copy traditional textbooks, you can purchase an older edition. It won't match up directly, but it's pretty close. I recommend the 11th edition. That's usually what I reference when I'm doing this, just because I like the old-fashioned traditional textbook. So if you like that, I definitely encourage you to go out and get a hard copy of the textbook, and older editions work well. Just note, no promises if there's like typos in the older edition or something like that. But as far as content, it's pretty on par. So you can see that we have some homework assignments, things like regular homework and then quizzes. If you go to your syllabus and you go to the last page, it'll have the due dates. The due dates in Canvas/Webassign should match the last page of the syllabus. If it doesn't, it's likely a typo. And I would say the default correct due date is going to be what I email, and also what is on this syllabus. I do try to send weekly emails with due dates, so you can get that. And I also post those as announcements. I recommend this first day, one of the first things you can do is just take this last page and enter it into your schedule. So if you use a paper schedule, write those down, all those dates down already, all those due dates. If you use like a cell phone or something like that, make sure you go in and put those in to your calendar. If you want to pause the video and do that right now, that would be a great idea, just so that you already have those things planned out. You can see when exams open and when they close. So those are good things to have mapped out into your schedule, so that you know when you can take the exam. Okay, if you do need an extension, I grant 2 penalty-free extensions for assignment dates. There's exceptions to that. One of the exceptions is that I don't grant extensions for learning activities. The solutions for learning activities I send out the next day after they're submitted. So if you submit it like 12:30 and it was due at midnight, I'm not gonna penalize you or anything. It'll be graded as normal. But the next day around, sometime in the morning, I'm going to send out the solution key. Now, these are hard copy documents. These are static documents. They don't change. They're not dynamic like the other homework. And as a result, it gives an unfair advantage if I allow some people to get extensions on that after I've sent the solution key. So if I've sent the solution key for the learning activity, or even if I haven't, but I'm going to, I don't allow extensions for the learning activity. So plan accordingly. I don't allow extensions on exams either. The reason being that I really want to try to get everyone's tests graded. The bulk of what I grade for your exams are the written work supporting it. So I really can't grant extensions for tests, because if I do, the test has already went live and it's already been opened for an extended amount of time. So you would potentially give unfair advantages to people, or you'd get an unfair advantage if you are allowed to take the test after the due date. So I don't grant extensions for tests and I don't grant extensions for learning assignments. So again, please plan accordingly. One of the things you can do to help properly prepare yourself for that test and how we test in this class is by taking the practice test. When we take it, we take it via HonorLock. And so you'll want to be familiar with the HonorLock software when it comes to exam time. I recommend a few days before you take the actual exam that you take the practice test. As a thank you for taking the practice test, I do award 3 points added on to your overall score on your online test. So I recommend the practice test and I encourage you to take it. The practice test can be helpful because HonorLock is what we use. It's a recorded test monitoring software. You would go to HonorLock when you're ready to take the test. And from there, you go through the prompts. It's going to ask for identification and things like that for verifying. Because this is a transferable course, in order to make our material transferable, we are required to give proctored tests. So that's a requirement. I can't get outside of that. That's just like I said, it's something that makes our course transferable, which likely might be why you are taking it, is that you like that it's transferable. So when you're ready to take a test, make sure you have HonorLock and take the practice to make sure that the HonorLock software works correctly on your device. You don't want it to be 2 hours before the test is due and you're figuring out that you don't have the right software for the device to work. Because remember, you can't get extensions on the exam. I don't grant passwords for exams. HonorLock enters the passwords in for you. So if you're like, oh, where's the password? Where's the password? HonorLock gives the password. I don't give it to students. That's part of that, making sure that's the barrier to make sure that you are able to have the proctor set up before you take the test. Now, while you're taking the test, it is computer. Sometimes there's some glitches and it's technology, and they might think that you are, maybe you're writing like this and then you kind of like go like this. They might think that you're cheating. They might flag you. If you get flagged during an exam, just know that I review flags and I understand if you're doing something like this and it flags you. I just recommend responding to the prompt flag, doing a room scan as they ask, and just going along with it. And just note that I'm not going to penalize you or anything for getting flags. It happens to everybody. It could happen to me. So just try your best to kind of ignore those flags if you do get flagged, and it happens to everybody. And then just continue on. So it's just kind of to keep that accountability check. It is technology driven, so it's bound to be imperfect. So just know that while you're taking it, prepare yourself so that you might get flagged throughout the test, and just respond accordingly. While you're taking tests, it's expected that you're going to have written work. You also will probably have written work for your learning activity. This is an example of a learning activity, trying to make it visible. So I would expect that you would write out, if you are physically capable, writing out all your written work for learning assignments and exams. With that, number the problem so I can find it. When I grade your exam, what I do is I pull up your written work and I review that. And then I compare it with what you entered into Webassign. So you want your written work to support what you put in Webassign. That is what I care about. I care about the how and the why you got your answer, not the what your answer is. So if I can see good support for how you got your answer, and then somewhere in the details or the weeds, you have 1 + 1 = 3. That's kind of more of what I would consider like a typo level absent-minded mistake. I'm going to give you majority of the points for that problem. If, however, I see that you have no written work and I go to your test and you got the right answer, you're going to get minimal to no points for that problem. So really make sure you're supporting your work. Now, some problems don't call for work. Some you just use the graph. That's fine. If you want to write graph on there, that's great. If you want to just skip it, that's fine. Just note that if you do get it incorrect, there's not really anything I can do for partial credit. Really encourage you to write written work. And the initial score that you see, if you are supporting your answers, will likely be lower than what you actually earn on the test, because I grade the written work. It goes the same for learning assignments. My expectation for learning assignments is that you'll click on a learning activity. And if you have a printer, you want to print it, great. If you don't, no worries. You don't have to print the learning assignment. or learning activity. What I expect though is for you to handwrite the work. I don't really expect you to type it. In fact, most people don't type it. And most people don't print that. They just number the problems and then I can read it accordingly. I do ask, however, that you submit your learning assignments and your test work as a single document. The reason for that is it's just when it comes in on my end, it's a big jumble of files. If you use the Canvas app for submitting it, or if you submit multiple files or photos, please do not do that. What you can do though is you can still take photos. If you don't have a scanning app or scanner, that's okay. Just take your piece of paper, take some pictures of it, put those pictures into a Word document, save the Word document as Amanda Olson, learning assignment number 5, or exam 1 work, written work, and then upload that Word document into your Dropbox for Canvas. You will have written work for tests and you will have written work for learning assignments, unless you have a disability support services accommodation, in which case, that's going to be a different story. But for majority of you, you will have written work. And I ask that you submit it with a scanner / with photos. And submit it as a single file. So we've talked about practice test scanning. If you have questions about scanning or if you're having difficulties, I do give grace on the first learning assignment. So make sure you get that learning assignment done so that you know how to complete practice tests or complete practice test work and also know how to submit written work. You do have to submit your written work within an hour of submitting the test into Webassign. That's just to keep, the test secure. So make sure that once you submit that Webassign that you are prepared to scan in this document within an hour. I also recommend the Dropbox closes at midnight. So give yourself 3 hours before the Dropbox closes, if not more. You don't really necessarily want to be pushing up to that deadline. But if you do, give yourself at least 3 hours. 2 hours to take the test and then 1 hour to submit your written work. Okay, so I think I've covered everything that I plan to cover for this. Oh, one more thing. The other thing I will say is sometimes people ask about a calculator. I don't at this time allow Desmos to be used for test taking. You don't need a graphing calculator. Graphs will either be provided or you don't need a graph and you'll be asked to do it analytically or some other way. A standard basic graphic scientific calculator is what I would recommend. The proctoring apps, you can use one on your computer, so you don't have to worry about purchasing one or anything like that. Since you're taking the test on a computer, most smart devices allow you to have that calculator on screen, and they support that. So you don't even have to purchase a calculator to use for exams. You can't use cell phone calculators or smart device calculators minus the one that is on the screen sharing enabled. So just kind of keep that in mind, but I would just recommend a standard graphing calculator. Don't go out and buy a standard scientific calculator. Don't go out and buy a graphing calculator. Those are expensive. If you have one, great. It's a good resource, but I don't think you need to spend your money on it as a college student. Okay, so now I think I've covered everything. There's likely something that I've missed, or you might still have a question. I encourage you to send me an email if you have a question in regards to something I didn't answer. Check your MCC email. That's the best way to reach me. Thank you and have a good start to your quarter.